that. And it just happens that way. So, oh, what do I have to share from today? It was Sunday Live because there was so much going on there. And yeah, a little bit about division, a little bit about what else did I want to talk about? Yes, being alive and feeling alive and what alive is. And then also something about nano. I've spoken about a little bit, but I want to bring in a little bit more detail on it. And something that happened recently to a Michigan 13-year-old. Again, just being aware. You may already be aware of some of these things, and feel free to add into the chat or comments here certain things that kind of complement or add to, or maybe something completely different, and that's fine as well. So what is the something completely different for today? The something completely different for today is I'm reading, well, you've heard me mention the Sapien books, or maybe not, the Sapien book that I read, studied, and drove me raving mad, but not really. But the sense is, yeah, just getting dramatical. Well, I'm reading his second book, and I think there's a third. And I decided I'm just going to open to a page and see what wisdom, not, is actually in this page. And I thought I would read this one paragraph and then kind of unpack it. I like to unpack things as it kind of relates to life, as it kind of relates to what's going on in the event. So here in Homo Deus, by the same author, Sapiens, is something that is, when examining the history of any human network, it is therefore advisable to stop from time to time and look at things from the perspective of some real entity. Now, how do you know if an entity is real? Very simple. Just ask yourself, can it suffer? When people burn down the temple of Zeus, Zeus doesn't suffer. When the euro loses its value, the euro doesn't suffer. When a bank goes bankrupt, the bank doesn't suffer. When a country suffers a defeat in war, the country doesn't really suffer. It is just a metaphor, and in contrast, when a soldier is wounded in battle, he really does suffer. And when a famished peasant has nothing to eat, surprisingly, she suffers. And when a cow is separated from her newborn calf, she suffers. And this is reality. So let's ask ourselves, during this event, we have these certain things called injections, or a syringe needle kind of thing. When something happens to somebody, as we've been reading, probably unknown in history, to still be continuing in the light of all these serious adverse effects, including death, does the syringe suffer? No. Does the family suffer, or did the boy suffer? Maybe not, we don't know. But yes, the family does, and perhaps friends and close friends suffer. When, I could go on about a number of different scenarios. I'm sure you could add some as well. But the idea is people suffer, real people. And in essence, when a politician or when a new bylaw is made and somebody's forced to wear one of those masks, let's say, and they probably don't realize it, but it has a toxic chemical in it, and it's coming in, and or like the person I knew that actually had fainted due to it and incurred a possibly head injury for the rest of her life. Now, the mask doesn't suffer, nor does the bylaw suffer, but the people suffer. The real people suffer. And so right now, real people are suffering during this event. So if we're taking this Homo Deus, and I know he comes in time to time with certain things like this, but ask yourself, can it suffer? And if it can suffer, Is it the right thing to do? And you've heard me read the Nuremberg Code yesterday about suffering and knowing that there's suffering, and then this happens. And then we jump into asking ourselves the question, the 5G tower doesn't suffer whatsoever, but people who are super sensitive to it, or maybe they don't know they're sensitive to it, maybe the climate doesn't know it's sensitive to it, but it is, who suffers? Yeah, people, real people, they suffer. So during this whole event, there's so many examples that just by reading this paragraph, opening it up, I haven't read 20 pages before here, but just opening the page and seeing what just comes out. So if we can examine this event and ask ourselves the various things that are implemented, the various things that we are being asked to do, whether we're doing them or not, is who is suffering? Who is suffering? So when all these things are coming about and people are just, oh, that's not real, that's not real. We do have people suffering, and we have vulnerable people, and we do have people suffering at the hands of medications, at the hands of medical procedures and treatments. We do. We do. So the doctor who botches the surgery does not suffer. Well, maybe they do. We don't know. But they don't have to, in the sense of they didn't lose a loved one, but the loved one was lost. And I've heard several stories like this before. Who suffers? And when a person gets a vaccine, and it's a child, and they die, or they have a life-threatening condition that pops up, and then Toronto Public Health nurse says, well, prove it. Well, I don't think that nurse suffers at all. But guarantee that that child and that mother, maybe even the father, and whoever, is suffering. So, to put it into perspective a little bit, is good question here. Good question. So in essence, we're doing all of these things, and who's suffering? Locking down restaurants or stores, and when these places are being locked down, the restaurant isn't suffering. Now, the store itself is not suffering. The chair's not suffering. There's nobody sitting in it. All of those things also are not. It's the people suffering. So we have to ask ourselves, is what's happening the right thing to do? Never been done in history before where you lock down healthy people. Never been done before where you don't have real science, without a shadow of a doubt, that things work, and yet people are made to do it, and being made to feel criminal if they don't do it. So this is the thing. I like this here. Can it suffer? Now, so the banks don't suffer when things go down. Those things don't suffer. It's the people that suffer. So there's a lot to be said about what's in the future by what we do today. What we do today will mean what's going to happen tomorrow or in the future. So it's not about, well, we'll just think it's going to work out, or we just think it's this. Part of this growth and this journey right now is actually to step fully into our power. Ask ourselves some serious questions. Take responsibility for our life. Not just asking the serious questions, but take responsibility for what's going on right now. Because, in essence, who is suffering? Just like this question, can it suffer? Most things aren't suffering. The restaurant's not suffering. The chair, table not being sat in isn't suffering. It's the people that are suffering. And good people are suffering. So, there are things to do. Absolutely. And one of the things I believe that is going to be important is to come together. And that's my thing about division. And let me just share a story that somebody shared with me in my walk club. And he has been quite the adventurer, this person. I'm not going to say names or where they work or anything like that. But he's quite the adventurer in the sense that he is on a mission to help himself, yes. And so he has tried, say, psychedelic drugs just to allow him to explore. And I say, a really big explorer. And he's doing it under guidance and doing all this and It's really interesting what he's exploring. It's just his own journey, but he's also been on a number of retreats. You know, chocolate ceremony, retreats where they include several different kind of things to engage in, to learn about, to have fun with, to connect with people about. And he's always had very optimistic, fun things. So where's the division coming in? The vision coming in for this person is recently he went to sign up for one of these retreats that he really enjoys. So many things about it that he enjoys. And they had asked him if he had had the injection, and he said yes. And they said, well, sorry. No, anybody who's had it. Now, when he was asked that question, he thought for sure what they were going to say is, good, you've had it, you can come. But it was the opposite. It's just like that school in Florida. They decided they didn't want any shedding, didn't want any teachers to be teaching their children in person in this school. And I think it was a private school or something like that. And it was the leadership that made that decision. And you're going to see leadership making those decisions because of the various videos that are coming out around the shedding. Now, if we kind of tap into energy and the power that we have, no worries. Yes, you're going to act accordingly, you're going to do accordingly, but no worries, right? So this is division, and probably only the tip of the iceberg, or one piece of division that's going to continue to come out if we continue to feel that there are real threats regarding what's going on and worry. So people have a free will. They have to make their choice. And I know I've shared this before, but making choices is something that every man has. And that is something to accept. And that a leadership in their position wanted to be a set, that is something to accept. There's no sense getting mad at it. It's deciding that people are making choices, and they have every right to make the choices they do. So in either way, on either side of the coin in this particular case, to get upset only means that we're buying into the division. We're buying into it. And it is causing division when we buy into it. And quite frankly, when we think about what is coming through from certain politicians and maybe certain groups, is they're trying to get us to buy into the division. That there is something seriously going on out there, and we're buying in, buying in. You can see it from the signs, Black Lives Matter. I'm not saying Black Lives don't matter. I'm just saying that there are these things that people are buying into, even though they weren't impacted. And they feel it. Just the same about that to question, can they feel it? Yes. But to step back and understand if it is real or not is to ask, does the thing that they're saying really real, and does it affect you? Because what I heard loud and clear from a number of people when asked about these, cancel culture and Black lives and racism and all of that, most of those people said it doesn't apply, it doesn't exist, and that the mere fact that it's coming in at the levels it is politically, from these groups into the education system, which we can already understand, many of us here can understand how they have been, their intentions, maybe not so good, maybe intentions far off the mark, or the intentions are playing into the games and the desires and the intentions of certain people to control. Control is a thing. Absolutely. So to control your thoughts, to control division, to create division. But we can't buy into division. You might have already, but to buy into division means you've bought into the larger plan, which is to control people, control their thoughts. So this is key to me in thoughts, mental, how you think, what you think, and your feelings and emotions will most likely come from that. And so what I kind of wanted to get to with all of that, and to kind of bring it to a place, is the fact that what is getting into your head from where, and is it real for you? Is it real for you? Ask yourself that question. Is it real for you? Because quite often it is not real for a lot of people. When I was asking people, how's your life changed? How has your life changed? And a lot of people said, not much, very little. Sure, they have to put a mask on and they're going with the flow and they're doing that for the reasons they do. And there you go. But in a lot of cases, and I know for me, yes, there's been some difference. But as I went to the dollar store today without a mask, I walked in and the cashier came over, well, they're just kind of there, but and said, "Do you have a mask?" I said, "No, I'm exempt." Never said anything beyond that. Okay, turned away, walked away, and then a security guard came up and said the same thing, and just looked, sending him light and love and all that stuff. And again, I'm not the one who broke off eye contact. He broke off eye contact and said, "Okay," and walked away. So I'm not here to divide the people who are asking me the question, do you have a mask? Or maybe some people walk into stores completely remembering the past and forgetting completely that they were supposed to wear a mask. It's probably less so now than it was before, but the idea is, the truth of the matter is, division is something we create, each and every one of us. First, by how we take the information and we start thinking about it. That's kind of the first thing there, right? So that I wanted to come on and talk about today for sure. The other thing that I wanted to come into as well is heat. Talking about heat. Because one of the things that is coming up very clearly in some of the various websites I go on, the organizations that are supposedly for the good of the world and wanting to bring the world together. I think you probably know those names, and I think one's in Switzerland, and the other one is by the World Bank, and initials WHO and initials UN. But anyway, they have these things going on, and clearly there is a section or a chapter or a part to each and every one of those about CLIMATE. And one of the things that to be mindful is, truly there is a controlling something, controlling. And you know what? If you get a taste of control, you want more. And this is some of the things that have definitely people who feel not good enough or feel they aren't worthy or something. They find relief in being controlled, and they find relief in the various things that take them away from feeling the feelings of unworthy. So, get back to the CLIMATE. These things that kind of exist to kind of push the forward. I've talked about the government UK, human augmentation. Sapien talks about it. It talks about AI and being part man, part robot, those kind of things. So we can create better armies. I mean, if that isn't division, I don't know what is. Just even with our human body, which is perfect. I mean, just to accept who we are. But one of the things about the things that are happening in the skies, for instance, and putting the metals in there, you get a much better response by having a bunch of metal in the sky. When you're sending signals around, they'll bounce all over the place like a ricochet ball. Now, if I were to throw a ball in a clear space where there's no metal, now a ball obviously has got weight. It's not like the other particles frequency that's kind of going through. This ball, so we just imagine a rubber ball, and there is nothing to impede it. It goes in a straight line. Okay, maybe not perfectly straight line, but it's going forward. If there's gravity or anything, it's going straight. But if I put up a bunch of walls, just little square walls here and there, here and there, here and there, and a lot of little walls, then as that ball is flung into the air, it's a good chance if there's that ball, that if there's more metal or more walls put up, that this ball is going to ricochet and be able to get into more places and more spaces around the globe. So thinking about things that are coming from the sky and through the sky. Hi, sis. Right? So you can imagine these frequencies that are coming from the satellite. Call them G5, Z, let's go 5G. There we go. We'll speak in a different language. 5G. There's one thing to have those signals coming out of something and being stronger in frequency. Like, it's not the same from 3 to 4, from 4 to 5. It's not. If you think 3 to 4 is equal to 4 to 5, well, it's not. There's a big push that just happened. And this frequency is warmth. It's heat. It's that. So when we think about certain particular areas and places, not only of the very heat waves, right, things burning, but also the very thing about how the physical body can heat up, or it be more of an external stress or toxicity. So we have a lot of internal toxicity, but you can see this as an external toxicity and being very stressful on the body. Some very relevant, because I do know people who have sensitivities to the EMFs and how they function. Yes, I know them and heard their stories and see the results and pay attention. It's a real thing. There's been plenty of research. You're not going to see it on the mainstream media. So this whole thing about the CLIMATE is not, okay, if we think about who's it hurting, it's really hurting the people by the way that they're pushing this, and they want, if indeed, but I'm not putting it out there, they want to make concessions as to what we do and don't do for the mere reason that it's being caused by something that's artificially, that of course doesn't feel anything, the 5G, then it's the people, again, that suffer. It's the people that suffer. And so be mindful that these frequencies and these particles that keep spewing into the sky, maybe more in some places, less in other places, and that it's just bouncing off and ricocheting off and getting every place and anywhere. And there's more of them, and it's stronger. And this is what they actually discovered in this event, that in certain countries, especially let's say, the source of the matter, I'll just say W, in the C country, they had actually in 2019 been protesting for a long time. They didn't want those towers there, and that obviously they didn't work. But so when you're thinking about people having issues and health issues, that can be a good trigger, because the stress on the body, right, and external toxicity in and of itself, that can be a trigger for people not to feel well. Heating, fever, whatever, anything foreign in the body. Fever is a thing. Don't want it, not feeling well. You have to work with the body. It has to adjust perhaps to it. So the timing of it is really, once again, around this event. How are we really going to know? How are we really going to know? But the mere fact that they called what they called, and really, who does it hurt? The people. The people. So you're on their radar again. Yoo-hoo. Anyway, I know I'm speaking really slow and probably saying things, but the other thing that has never, ever tapped me, oh, here's the good puppy, is something small that can get into the body that doesn't belong there. So, nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is very, very small. And in that nanotechnology, I can see things slowing down here, but in nanotechnology, it can get into places where it isn't meant to get into. Okay? There's one thing about certain things. Puppy's trying to turn around on my computer. Okay, Shadow. Sorry. He's not feeling well, and he's very sad that the puppy... Come on there, buddy, get out. Very sad that the new puppy is here, and just depressed. If I just had to say it in one word, he sometimes has his moments in getting better. But when I first heard about the nano, and I don't know, I might be ending here. They might be ending me. Yeah, think so. Anyway, if you can still hear me, great. I'll still speaking until this is officially kind of ending. Maybe not. Anyway, here we go again. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do my own Zoom call, and I think there's only so many people on it, so be it, but I think I'm going to do that presentation. Oh, thanks, Fern. I'm going to do that presentation where I can bring a number of these things together. And so if you've missed this live or missed another live, missed one of the lives, if I can kind of bring it all together. And again, most of what I want to bring out is we can use today and this event or any event as an example, but that the very things that I'm speaking about don't change, wouldn't have changed 100 years ago, 1 million years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1 day ago, to 10 days from now or 100 days from now. There are things that are going to change, but some things really don't change. So I'm going to create that presentation, and then I don't have to worry about language at all and what I'm talking about. But here, you need to ask the question about the nano, because once upon a time they were bragging about it, were, how can I say it, big labeling it and talking about it. But in actual fact, after things kind of were coming out about it, at least some of the things that I was reading, but also some things that, I don't want to get stuck in the computer again, some of the things that it all of a sudden went under the radar, so to speak. And it's no different than the changing in labels. It's no different in how they change that. I mean, it's just a change, and it's just under a different name. And what I've had to do probably over the last decade for sure is ask, and maybe a couple decades, ask, is this nano? And sometimes they have to go back to their scientist or their chemist and then ask the question. But yes, there are using it more and more, and you don't know. You don't know. So in essence, when something can get into the cell, then it's most likely nano, unless it's a whole food or some natural thing, because really our cells, intelligence, is supposed to pick and choose what goes in there. And by having things go in there, you really don't know. Nobody really knows what is going to happen. And that's where I think science, and my good friend Richard Feynman, who was a physicist, said about how limited science is, and really the scientific methods is only humans observing. Most of what we would say to it is theory, speculation, I guess if you want to say it that way, thinking it is it, but is it really it? They can't control the human body, but they can surely hurt it. They can't heal it if we think about the medical and what they're doing. They're just dealing with the symptoms. And this is really an awesome distinction between bringing something back to life again and destroying it, like this 13-year-old boy who got the injection, and within a few days he did have side effects for those 3 days, went to sleep and didn't wake up. Didn't wake up. No. So we can easily do those kind of things, and including what is the number one thing about causing cancer is toxicity. And yet they're giving us poison, poison, that has no cure effect, really, at the end of the day, and can absolutely cause cancer, because that's in the medical book. So I'm not speaking, I'm just not making stuff up here. It is there for you to find, as doctors told me right out of their mouth. They had no idea until their child went through it, and then when they did their research, that actually that is true. If it doesn't cause that, it causes serious long-term side effects, especially in children. So, yes, still can right now. Okay, so the only thing, I'm going to work on this presentation because, okay. Let's see if it's coming up. I'm really just going to kind of end with some jokes and puns, but Yeah, I mean, that was a lot probably that they didn't like, but I did want to go through a couple of things here. Especially, I'm going to post a few things, of course, just a couple of things here, but I also wanted a couple of other things on the lighter side of things. I wanted to talk about a particular story that a neighbor uh, mentioned to me. So, um, help yourself to my wonderful raspberries. That is all lovely. Now, and they have some elderberry flowers. So elderberry bushes are abundant everywhere in Croatia. And when I was a toddler and older, my grandma used to make me elderberry tisane on Sundays. And she had the privilege of, oh yeah, she had the privilege of Sunday babysitting. And often she'd put some arrowroot biscuits into a half cup of the tisane, which I believe is tea, and I would love to make a paste out of them and eat it with a spoon. Reassuringly, the paste is no longer one of my comfort foods. He has a big sense of humor. But there's something about stories of certain countries and stories just in themselves of the way things are. I mean, this is Croatia, and there's certain countries like Croatia, communism, that have very similar stories. Well, let's say similar stories, maybe not very similar, but similar stories. And this is really to be reminded of the stuff that's been created not to serve us, because it's not hurting the country. Now, as I just was speaking about Homo Deus, it's hurting the people, right? So in essence, you can have these wonderful, in some ways, wonderful stories, but around that story is many other things. He was letting me know about, because I was mentioning about getting eggs from the farm, and he was saying that on the route to the market, so these lovely ladies would put their scarf around their head, put a basket, and they'd have 20, 30 eggs and regularly be bringing it to the market. And the family could only afford one egg, and the one egg was for their son, this person I am talking about. So the family would forego making anything with eggs, and if they were able to get more, they would make things with it, but they'd never have scrambled eggs. Now that would have been a luxury for the family. Oh, so doggy is walking around, pacing around in his state. Come here, Shadow, and knocking things, knocking into things. Come here, boy. Yeah, I just usually will have to lie him down because I think he makes himself exhausted. So what else did I want to speak about? So I definitely want to share this story. Here, I want to share. I've brought up Esther and Esther Hicks before, and I really want to kind of read a couple of things that were, now this is from 1999, but really holds those things that hold weight, truths to today. There will be someone who comes from a background of poverty who is influenced to strong wanting, and the rockets of desire will shoot, and then they will find a way to find vibrational harmony with their desire. They will get into this flow in which material things flow into their life at outrageous abundance, and they will feel brief moments of success as it comes, until they are eventually buried by the cumbersomeness of it. And then the next rocket of desire that is born is I wanting a simpler life. Simple is something to me that came loud and clear, that that's really, now is it simple? Some people say, you hear people say this is challenging, this is hard, this is complicated, this is going to be difficult, and this is where thoughts come in. This is another one of Esther's, just came today, and I thought I would, this is from 2 days ago, I thought I'd bring this one up as well. This is from 2002. Again, these things don't change over time. But maybe once upon a time in the pristine origins, it wasn't the thing. Most parents, when they see children not terrorized by the things that terrorize them, they work very hard until they've finally got you terrorized. They teach you those irrational fears, well-meaning, but they do just the same. Most parents, I'm going to read it again, when they see children not terrorized by the things that terrorize them, they work very hard until they finally got you terrorized. And they teach you those irrational fears, well-meaning, but they do just the same. I'm going to give you a little example, and the little example is fear of death or fear of your children or fear of loss. And we have parents just saying to their children, almost screaming, I mean, being angry or trying to shame and all those things about certain things that they're not quite aware of yet. You know, they're in joy, they're in play, they're in that. And when they get yelled at and disciplined for the very things that they just need to be taught and be brought aware of, that's what they're doing. You know, they're putting on the fear of loss, the fear of death, that kind of stuff on to the children. It happened with me, with my mother and my children. I could see it, and I would just take it and move it, try to do this, but you know, it's there. You know, it's there. And how many parents don't know any better at the end of the day? They, again, well-meaning, but they do just the same. So here's Shadow, come back here. Have a seat. Come here, come here. Okay, so a couple of, I have to get in here now. I'm like the one person. Oh, did I have it here? Yes. Um, Teacher. Now we're on the classroom capers here. Uh, and why are you late for school, Tommy? And Tommy says, well, there are 8 children in our family, and the alarm clock was set for 7. Oh, what children won't say to get out of it. Okay, just one more, and then I'm going to have to take this doggy and lie him down. Teacher, can anyone tell me what causes trees to become petrified? George, the wind makes them rock. There you go. So just a couple for today. And I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful evening, and whatever can make your day. And there you go. So thanks for coming on and watching Live at 5, and we'll see when the next video will be, but definitely Mondays live at 5 for sure. And I hear that the blueberries are ready early in the north, so who knows when that'll be. I might get to do a live at 5 in the blueberry patch once again. So take care, everyone. Enjoy, 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 and I hope some of this stuff resonated. I know this is part 2, but at the end of the day, I'll put it together for YouTube anyway. But take care, everyone, and yeah, I'll coordinate the Zoom presentation for people to come on, and kind of we can talk so freely. Anyway, take care, everyone. Bye for now, and we will see you again soon.